This guy all of a sudden got stretched out like Gumby, like a wad of gum got stretched out. He snapped up. I think I heard like woof sound. But then after that, everything went dead. Dead silence. Nothing. No breeze, nothing. No vibration, nothing at all. So what in God's name is this? This guy, I thought he was a normal person. After he gets yanked up, like pulled up, like completely, I don't think he was expecting it. He gets blown apart. His left leg gets taken apart. And all of a sudden I see it hanging up in the atmosphere. All these starlights, these blinking stars coming on and off, on and off, on and off. Almost like Christmas lights on a tree, all blinking and blinking and blinking. And then I look up and I see these two parallel electric blue streaks in the sky above my head. All of a sudden here, I see this rectangle. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I look at it and this was not of this world. So here I'm like, oh my God.
This one is for the record books.
Right now on Higher Journeys with Alexis Brooks.
I'm glad everyone tuning in today is joining me for this conversation. We're about to get pretty deep into a story, a gentleman that I'm about to bring on. You can't see him at the moment, but you will shortly. His name is Joe Killian. Joe had an experience back in 2019 that shook his world. We could call it a close encounter, but it was a lot more than that. I'm doing this show for a reason, everyone. Many of you watching this show have watched the show before, and many others maybe that are tuning in for the first time have had these brushes with these close encounters, let's call them, that are very perplexing. They can be very isolating for a myriad reasons, and they leave one with questions and perhaps doubt even about your own sanity. Listen, this is something that we try to talk about as much as possible to get clarity, not on finality of what it is, but to, if nothing else, for you all to know you are not alone. Joe Killian, now you see him. He's on right now. I'm welcoming him for the first time. Joe was in a workshop of mine that I did several years ago now with Whitley Strieber, something that I'm going to talk a little bit about later in the show. But Joe, I just want to thank you so much for your courage in coming forward. I know you have shared your story on a couple of occasions, and we had sort of serendipitously run back into each other a couple of years after the Whitley workshop, and you were kind enough to come on and tell us the totality of your story. So first of all, welcome to Higher Journeys. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
I think the best thing to do is to start at the beginning. Maybe if you would give us a little bit of background on who you are, and then I'd like to just kind of sail right into this, we'll call it inexplicable evening on a cold January dark night in Croton Falls, New York in 2019. Your world was shook up. Tell us a little bit about you and maybe fold in how this all happened.
Well, I'm a retired phys ed teacher, physical education from Danbury, Connecticut. I taught in the Danbury Public Schools from January 1973 up until June of 2009. I always worked part-time in restaurants to help supplement my income. And, it was many places I've worked, but this was the last place. It was a nice, beautiful restaurant. It's a big Victorian mansion. I don't like to mention the name of it because the owner, after I had this experience, did not want me to really tell anybody about it because he was afraid it might hurt business. Of course, other people told me there, then, well, maybe it would increase business. But, I'd worked there with the old owners that were there, and I started working there in 2006, and I worked there all the way until March of 2020 when the pandemic came in. And that's when I stopped working because I was afraid of COVID. And so anyway, that night I was working. It was a Saturday night, and it was kind of a busy night and a little stressful. But I was considered like the head waiter there. They always called me Papi Joe. I was the oldest guy there. A lot of Spanish guys worked in the kitchen. A lot of them were my bus boys, and they're great, great workers. And so after that night, we were having our family meal in the back of the bar restaurant. It's just like a private room. And I cut the money out for everybody, the tip money and so forth. And, I got up, everybody had left. My last bus boy left a little ahead of me. And I went to the bar and I said goodbye to the bartender. And I said goodbye to the owner. He left right after I said goodnight to him. And there were two other people there. There were the owner's son. The bartender was his son, and also the one of the waiters, and also another waiter was a friend of mine that was still there. So the bartender, I'll call him John. I left with John out the front. He lived upstairs at the time. He went around the corner because there's a big mansion, like 4 stories high, and there's like rooms upstairs. And it goes back to about 1868, the building itself. It has the widow's watch, everything, beautiful place. And so he went up the stairs, and I had a bag of bottles. I always recycle the bottles. And I had the keys to my truck. So I had a bag of bottles in my left hand, my keys in my right hand. I opened up the front door. And as I stood on the porch, I used to go out the front all the time because going out the kitchen side where my busboy had already gone, the stairs are uneven, it's not lit. And they kind of shut all the lights off. And there was nobody left in the restaurant after I left, except the owner's son and the other waiter. So I'm standing on the porch and I'm looking out. And it's a kind of a damp, cold night. I later found out it was 25 degrees that night, and it's a deep haze, so you can't really see too much, and there wasn't much lighting. So as I stood on the porch ready to walk down, I heard this rustling sound in the bushes between the porch and these evergreen bushes that were cut low. And I look to my right, and I see this figure, all dressed in black with a black hood over his head, and he's moving away from me like I startled him. And he's just walking. I said, what the heck is that? I thought maybe it was one of the kitchen guys because they're kind of short in stature, and they kind of hang there sometimes, and they like steal a beer or something after work. So I thought maybe it was him. So, but I thought, this is odd. But so I didn't think too much. So I walked down the stairs and I went around the SUV, who actually belonged to the bartender who lived upstairs. There was no other cars really in the parking lot except my truck that was around the corner down the bank of the restaurant. It had sloped down. So as I walked around the SUV, this taller figure came, out of nowhere. And he's tall and he's walking fast and he's all dressed in black. And he's got his hands in his pockets. He's got his hood up over his head, another hood. So I thought, is this the same guy? But he's a lot taller. He's like around 6'4". And of course, I'm on a slope because I'm going down. The driveway kind of sloped down at the parking lot. And he's on the edge of the Belgian block on the grass. When the Belgian block was where the curbing was. And there was no snow on the ground, oddly enough, because this was January. Usually we get a lot of snow up here then. But there was no snow at all. So he's walking on the grass in the Belgian block. So he's walking. I'm thinking, well, is this a homeless? He can't be a homeless man. He didn't come from the restaurant. And I thought, no, he's got to be coming from the train station. So he's walking kind of briskly. And then as he gets into where the torch lights are, his pants change color. They go to like a brownish color. And I notice he's got brown shoes on. And he's got like burgundy socks. And they're tied off. The shoes are tied off in a bow. But what amazed me was that the shoe grommets, where the shoelaces go through, the eyelets, were all gold, bright gold. So I said, what is this guy doing? Then he's kind of like trying to move away from me. He's moving kind of fast. His feet are going in a scissory direction, really quick. So I yelled to him. I said, in an upbeat, friendly voice, I said, hey, man, where you going, baby? Like that, like I said baby only because I figured, well, it's a non-threatening, call out. Like, if you're from the South, you might say, hey, where you going, Bubba? Or something like that, So,
I'm not from the South, but yeah, anyway.
Okay, well, what that means. So as he was walking away, he's still got his head pitched over, like walking weird. And I figured, who'll be walking fast with their hands in their pockets? Usually you have them out your side for balance, and you're swinging them. So I couldn't really see, and I couldn't see his face either. Couldn't see his hands, I only saw his feet and the socks on his shoes. So I got a little closer to him, and I walked a little faster. And as I got near him, I hear the static electricity coming out of his shoes, where the golden grommets are, like static, like sound. And kind of, what the heck is this? So I backed off, and I figured he's going to the gas station, because it was an all-night gas station. It was open. It was a Shell station right next to the place. And there was fluorescent lighting, but it was kind of hid by these huge hemlock trees. It kind of shielded the broadcasting of the fluorescent lights onto the parking lot. But you could see it on the down below where the tree trunks were through it, and it was glaring. And I figured, well, he's got to be going there. He's got to be walking there fast, because he probably wants to get there before. I think the store closed at 12, but the gas station was still open, where you could use your credit card to get gas. And so my truck was parked around the corner down below there, where he was going to go by. So I said, yeah, I better move away. So I moved away. I was within 5 feet at one point, then I moved away up 10 feet away. So I kind of eased back, and I kind of walked diagonally away from him. But then as he got down this little grassy slope of the hill, past the wheelchair entrance that went up to the porch where people would go to the restaurant, this guy all of a sudden got stretched out like Gumby, like a wad of gum got stretched out. He snapped up. I think I heard like woof sound. But then after that, everything went dead. Dead silence. Nothing. No breeze, nothing. No vibration, nothing at all. So what in God's name is this? Now I'm frozen. I'm looking at it, and I'm like in awe of it all. I had the bag of bottles in my hand, because I recycled them. They were in my left hand. My keys to my truck were in my right hand. My cell phone was in my back pocket. My only regret is I didn't drop everything and pull that out and start recording right away. But this guy, I thought he was a normal person. So, you're not going to do that, but when this happened. So then after he gets yanked up, like pulled up, like completely, I don't think he was expecting it. He gets blown apart. His left leg gets taken apart. And all of a sudden I see it hanging up in the atmosphere. And it's hanging there in the sky. And then there's like somebody took a razor from behind the deep haze and cut. I can see almost like a cut going across. And then I see his leg like still hanging there. Then it opens up. The slit in the sky opens up. His whole leg, his upper part of his leg, his knee, his bottom leg, the same pant leg is there. The cloth is on there, and the sock, the color sock, and his shoes with the golden grommets are there. That goes up, sucks up into that slit, goes away in the slit, and then the slit gets like somebody had a zipper and zipped it up. All right. So now I'm looking to the right, and to the right, all the body parts are being completely, like under these rolling clouds, are being completely taken away and discombodied. And up in the upper part, up to about like the fourth story of this restaurant, I see all these starlights, these blinking stars coming on and off, on and off, on and off, almost like Christmas lights on a tree, all blinking, blinking, and blinking. And then I look up and I see these two parallel electric blue streaks in the sky above my head, all of a sudden appear. And they were like the same color as the Connecticut State Police cars have, that color, that electric blue. And it's almost like radiating. And it's coming way above my head, at least 90 degrees above. And it goes off to where the highway is, 684. Well, you couldn't see 684 because it was still really dark night. The haze was like completely covering everything up. So then in between these two purple streaks, I see this rectangle. It's got red on top and yellow underneath, and a robin's egg blue sphere in the lower right-hand corner. And it's the size of like my pinky thumbnail.
How close was it to you, Joe? How close was this rectangle to your face?
It was far, far away, but it's coming at me.
But it was only the size of your thumbnail?
Thumbnail, but now it's getting bigger. It's coming.
Okay.
it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I look at it, and this was not of this world. The colors, the red color and the yellow color, they're extremely vibrant. They're moving, they're waving. It's three-dimensional. The sphere is like turning in the bottom corner. It's you could see it. It's like a globe. And I'm thinking, is this the doorway to heaven? Is this the window to heaven? It wasn't of this world. I'm thinking I could step into this thing, but it was way above my head. But I mean, it was I wasn't scared by it because it was very actually tranquil looking. But it looked, it looked definitely, it wasn't of this world, obviously. So that comes up, and right when it gets to be like 90 degrees over my head, I'm looking straight up at it. It completely falls down into all these clouds and the starlights and the blue streaking lights. Everything falls into like implodes, comes all the way down to like a black hole in front of me. It ends up as the size of a dot. And then bingo, it disappears, everything.
Hmm.
So here I'm like, oh my God.
How long do you think this whole experience, what you witnessed, took? How long do you think this lasted?
From when I got on the stairs, I walked around, it's like about 35, 40 steps. And I stood there looking at it. I would say probably 10 minutes, maybe 15 at tops, you know. And yeah, and I'm like, I'm just saying, what the heck happened? So now I walked around. I went going to my truck. I'm kind of running. As I'm going around the corner, my busboy in his car comes around. He says, "Hey, Joe, what are you doing still here?" I said, "Did you just see what I saw? Did you see any part of this?" And I said, "What are you still doing here?" He said some stuff I don't even remember now what he said. He was probably on his phone in his car looking at stuff. So he rolled his window, he rolled his window down. And so I told him, I said, I just saw a ghost or something. He just completely got stretched out, flew up in the air, and all these other things happened. And, he thought I was joking because he knows I don't, I'm not a joker, but, he couldn't believe what I was saying. So, I don't see nothing. He goes, nothing, nothing, nothing. So he drove off, and I got my truck. I threw the bottles in the back, got my truck, and I drove it around the front, and I parked right by the SUV there. And my two buddies are out there, the owner's son and my other waiter that I used to work with. And I got out and I rolled the window down to my truck, and I looked up and I said, "Guys," he goes, "What are you still doing here, Joe?" I said, "I just saw a ghost. I saw somebody just fly up into the sky, broke apart." And I told them, they're saying, "Calm down. Don't worry about it. Come on in, have a drink." I don't drink, especially when I'm driving home, because all the DWIs they give out there, on the highway. So, I was completely, as Trish McGregor would say, a mind-blowing experience, and it was a mind-blowing experience. So, I after that, I got my truck. After I spoke to them, I calmed down a little bit, but I went home. I turned all the lights on in my house. I pulled into my driveway. The moon was coming up in the far eastern sky, and I said, "Where was that moon before? It could have been maybe brighten things up a little bit." Turned all the lights in my house on. I sat down. I had my notebook here. I started writing everything down. Everything down. I couldn't go to sleep. I, and then the next day I called my buddy up, and I still have the recording somewhere here of how panicky I sounded when I called. And I lived by myself, so obviously I was just. It still affects me like it happened yesterday. I still have this.
Absolutely. I have to tell you, I have never heard any story quite like this before. I have heard many stories, as you can imagine, over the years of some of the most inexplicable experiences that people have shared with me. This one is I would say for the record books. This one is for the record books.
Yeah.
I want to start to have a conversation around this, and thank you so much for that very, very detailed account. And I can tell it still moves you to this moment. Let's bring on some images that you took, in addition to the 17 pages of notes that you've taken. And I'm going to have you talk about what we're looking at here.
Okay. After this experience, I had gone to the first thing because I thought it was a religious thing. I thought that I witnessed a soul that went up to heaven. I didn't know, but who goes blown away like that? So I went to the church. I spoke to a priest, and he kind of didn't really believe me. He says, "Well, God works in strange ways." So then I went to a psychiatrist here in Danbury, I'll say his name, Dr. Killian, and down on Main Street. And I went to him, and I was going to him to talk about this. And he says, "Well, maybe you should draw pictures of it, because the regret I had was that I didn't take a video of it." But then I've talked to other people, and they told me before that if you did, your phone battery probably would have exploded.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are many accounts of that. Can't be captured.
Yeah. So he says, draw pictures of it. He says that might get your mind at ease, because from what you could have done. So this picture here is the way this entity, I'll say entity, because if I thought he was a person, I thought he was a man, obviously, looked when he got into the torch lights that were illuminated him probably from the waist up to where his 3/4 length jacket was on that he was wearing. And you can see he's walking on the grass area where I put the cobblestones in there, because that's how it looked when he was walking. And he was, uh, stiff but bent over where his head was. He was kind of bent over a little bit more than what I have in the picture there. But he was all in black. But then again, like I said, his pants had changed colors.
His pants changed colors?
He was originally all black. And then when he got into the better light, his pants were like light brown, and then the dark brown shoes with like the cranberry socks he was wearing. I looked at the feet, because when I saw the golden grommets and I saw that the static electricity, I was drawn to that with my eyes. And then I didn't see any sparks coming up, but I heard the static electricity coming
You
up.
heard, yeah, talk about that a little bit. Because I think initially you said that you thought it was dead silent, but
Well,
then you recall getting
well,
this sound coming from his
well,
shoes?
this is what it was. When I first was standing on the porch, what drew my attention to what I was hearing was the rustling sound of the bushes being bent by the smaller guy. See, I thought it was the same guy because they were wearing the same clothes. But then the more I thought about it, I'm thinking that there were two that night. The little guy I saw was a different guy, and this guy came out later. And I read Whitley Strieber's book about uh, there's like minions that follow these taller people around.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought maybe this is what I saw. This is what I started thinking. Well, this has got to be probably UFO related.
Right. Did you see a face? Did you see any facial features?
Like crazy. I couldn't get around him. I couldn't see his face. I thought I saw the peak of his nose, but I couldn't. I really can't tell you. I can't say that what he was. I mean, it could have been an insect that was there and facial. I don't know, but he was walking like a regular, normal person, wearing 20th century clothes. But as soon as when he was on the ground and I was looking at him, I heard like the movement of his feet, and this static electricity that really came out at me as I got nearer to him. It was like the static electricity was like telling me to stay away.
Right.
Back.
I'm sorry. Do you recall a cadence, a walking style he had? Was it a sort of?
It was short and scissory. It was like
Mechanical
this.
Almost?
Yes. Like he was moving, like we could emulate that, ourselves, but it was scissory. It was short steps, but quick, fast steps.
So it wasn't a natural cadence. It wasn't a natural stride.
No, not at all. He had that natural stride, but then he stopped and get slowed up, and then he got to short like I say, almost like real short steps, but fast short steps, and not stepping out too far in front. But all this noise that I heard was before he got blown up. When he got sucked up, then everything went dead silence. Everything was dead quiet. Everything was completely, no breeze, nothing, no sound, no vibration, nothing.
And speaking of which, why don't we talk about that? That's a depiction of what you saw.
Yeah. Yep, that's what bothered me the most, I think, because I saw that. I knew he was completely gone. I mean, he went to the right. His main body went to the right and discombobulated. I could see it going underneath the clouds. And it was like pieces of him, but this I saw specifically, distinctly. and that's where the rip in the sky happened. His leg was just like that, hanging. And then when that rip came, it sucked that, you know, leg up, the knee, followed by the lower leg, the socks, the shoe, and then flopped in. And right behind there was like somebody behind there with a zipper, zipped up that slit in the sky, and that was gone. And then my focus went to all the clouds that were
Hmm.
going up and all these starlights. The energy was like being released by, I think, by these white starlights that were blinking on and off, on and off, on and
Were
off.
they moving? Were the starlights moving, or were they simply blinking?
So they were blinking and they were moving. They were moving up. They were like blinking and moving up from this, all the way to the fourth floor of this place, all the way up to where the widow's watch was on this building, you know, way up. And
So I'm trying to just it's difficult to kind of imagine from your vantage point because you're on a porch, correct? You're on the porch of the restaurant, which is a mansion,
originally,
right?
yeah, originally was I was thinking,
Originally a mansion.
no, well, yeah, yeah.
But
This,
were you at the time of witnessing this? Did you remain on the porch?
no, 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 no. I was down. I walked down the
Okay.
steps and around the SUV, and I'm walking parallel to this guy.
Okay.
Just out of nowhere, and I'm walking parallel to him, and I'm saying, "Hey, man, where you going, baby?" I thought he was coming from the train station. I really do.
Right.
And there are people that walk on the road, but very seldom. I mean, that's an upscale area over there. There's no homeless people around there. There's nothing like that.
Right. How many feet up do you suspect all of this was taking place at?
Well, I got within 5 feet of him, and I moved off to about maybe 10 feet. But when he went up, I would say, uh, well, the maple, the Japanese maple tree is there, and it was right in front of me, right there. It happened. I'd say probably 40, 50 feet away from me when it went up, blew up in the air.
But you still enough for you to see the detail, obviously, of
Oh
his
yeah,
leg being
oh yeah, yeah.
severed, it seems.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was severed. It was exactly because it was hanging there first. I'm saying, what's it? How's it hanging up there like that?
Right.
And then, but all the other body parts were the same thing. There's all that other stuff that's happening under the clouds and everything. And
And
then,
what were you I know this is when things like this tend to happen, people I hear countless accounts of people who are frozen, literally, they cannot move. There it's almost as if time has just stopped. Do you recall heart beating fast? Do you recall any emotion you were having, or were you just so in awe that you were literally frozen with the sight of what you were seeing?
I would say I was in awe of it. I mean, I was watching it unfold in front of me, and I was like in a trance looking at it. I mean, I just
Mhm.
like, what am I seeing? I mean, this is like it just shook me to the core. I mean, when you see something like this happen in front of you, and
Right.
and it's completely, well, you feel like you're in control of everything, and then when you see something like this happen, and you say, "My God, I'm not in control of anything." I mean, this thing that I thought was a human being was not, and gets sucked up like this, or maybe he was, or maybe he was a ghost. I don't know, but just all of a sudden, I'm just saying, like I said, I was 70 years old when this happened.
Right.
I never saw anything like this in my life.
Let's talk about this image.
Well, that's okay. This is the image where that it looked that he got sucked up into. The clouds, the little, I don't know if I can't really point to it, but the bottom of that, where that point of the clouds is, that's where he was sucked up into, and his
Mhm.
leg was off to the left side of that, and he was rolling around underneath all these clouds that appeared. And then all these little starlights that you see up there in the right-hand corner, they were all blinking on and off, blinking on and off. There were hundreds of them, on and off. And then the streaks appeared. The streaks appeared like that. And then that's the rectangle that came out right after the
Mhm.
streaks appeared. Almost like they were like a landing zone, I was thinking after. They
Right.
were directional things that this thing was following.
Do you recall a smell of any kind?
No, I didn't smell anything. No smell or anything. No smell even when he was walking. When I heard the guy in the rustling in the bushes, and when I came around and the taller guy was there, I didn't hear no smell at all. It was just the noise of the crackling of his feet with a static electricity. That was the only sound I heard. I didn't smell
Right.
anything. You think that maybe I would have with the electric
Yeah.
current. Yeah, and this is what it looked like.
The rectangle.
This is what it looked like when I saw it when it came right at me. And these colors, I couldn't really do it justice. Obviously, I try to do it with pastel because I try to get it wavy. And
Mhm.
but the yellow down there was all moving, the red was all moving, but they were completely separated. They're like a line like I have here. They were like
Mhm.
zones, but the blue sphere was like a globe, and it was three-dimensional.
It
Everything
was
there,
three-dimensional, right?
yes,
Okay,
three-dimensional. I mean, you could actually feel as though you could step right into that, go into it. I mean,
right.
it was like a window that you could go into, not a doorway, a window. This was a rectangle shape.
Almost looks like a flag.
Everybody says that, and in
Yeah,
fact, on Facebook, the next after I did these pictures, I didn't. This is the only one I put on Facebook. I put, has anybody ever seen anything like this before? And people would say, it looks like a flag, or it looks like some,
mm,
some kid would have drawn, or something like that. But nobody ever said that, they ever saw anything like this in the sky or anything like that. I mean,
right.
I was hoping that somebody would.
Well, we've heard of sightings, UFO, UAP sightings of all shapes at this point. Obviously, the proverbial, flying saucers,
Yeah,
almost you don't hear about that as much as the triangular shapes and geometric shapes, orbs. But
yeah.
rectangles, I know that there really have only been a few. That's not common. There, I believe, were two sightings, both happening in 2018 in Texas.
Hmm.
But they were big. They weren't the size of what you're talking about. They were, some of them are described as football, the size of a football field. Both of these, it could have been the same craft. We don't know, obviously. One was in San Antonio, and the other I can't remember. If it comes to me, I'll mention it. Both in 2018. So that in and of itself. But I mean, you saw more than just that as the craft. You saw a lot of different phenomena in this same sort of unfolding, if you will. Um, let's look at slide 5, and then I want to talk a little bit about the aftermath for you because I think that's very important. Tell
Yeah.
tell us what we're seeing here.
Well, this is the building, and this was taken, I would say, in May. Uh, and it's the corner of the building where this happened. Uh, Now there was a car parked there because I had gone in there and I saw people, and as I came out, I was driving home, getting ready to go home. I this I saw the moon right there, and I'm saying this is exactly where that rectangle came out of. The
Hmm.
same, you know, place, and where the same, where it was above my head. Even though this is May, it's not January, 26, 2019. I
Mhm.
got to take this picture because the upper lights of the building were off. The lower lights were still on, but it wasn't as bright. It was more of a yellowish light. And of
Mhm.
course, this is probably like around early evening. As you can see, the sky is blue,
Right.
and
Right.
the tree you can see off to the left there. That's where I saw the light come off.
This was approximately the same
Yeah,
place. So were you standing at that same uh were you viewing from that same perspective when
yeah,
the night had happened? Okay.
yeah,
So
exactly.
basically where the moon was or
Yeah,
is here in this picture is where the phenomena you saw happen.
where the rectangle came out. Yeah,
But
yeah.
closer, obviously, than the
Yeah.
moon.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then the upper portion of the building is where all the clouds were and all the starlights were. And then above that, I saw the electric blue streaks that came out parallel in the sky. They
So it's
came.
almost like there were layers of things going on, but all sort of interacting, it
Yeah,
seems.
I couldn't believe. I still can't. I think about this thing
Yeah.
again, and it's mind-boggling to me.
Let's get into that, Joe. And thanks again, because I know it's emotional for you. And I want to, if I can, spend a little bit of time talking about the aftermath for you. So you did mention that you spoke with you brought it up to one of the individuals that worked at the restaurant. And they didn't see anything. You put an image on Facebook. You've taken some steps, but in that alone time, when you've been pondering this and still are pondering it, how have you fared? Has there been a sense of fear? Has there been a sense of how do you deal with it? Um, and have you had
Well,
any experiences
yeah,
since?
no, but I'll tell you, I'm always looking up in the sky. Anywhere I go. But I'll tell you the aftermath of how I feel now after this has happened. I noticed that sound, anytime I hear like any type of small or unordinary sound, like the refrigerator going on in the furnace, or uh, something outside, I mean, it startles me. I'm more reactive to that kind of stuff before I would have thought much about it.
Hmm.
So sound really bothers me. The other thing is, at night, sometimes I try not to think about it. I have to get up. My one big fear that I have about this, and it still haunts me to this day, is the fact that, if I had gone up to this guy, and when I said, "Hey, man, where you going?" Because I was getting close to him, within 5 feet, and I put my arms on him, or said, "Hey, look, how you doing?" or tapped his shoulder, to see what he looked like. I'm not talking to you. I might have been sucked up like he was, and I think
Mm.
he was. I think he wasn't expecting up. I think he wasn't. I think he going down to the fluorescent gas station, because I was thinking maybe he thought that was where he was supposed to be going. Maybe that was a place where there was something that was there that he was going to travel in, like maybe a flying saucer, a UFO. But this other thing came out, and he got blown apart.
Right. So
But
many
other
questions.
than that, I mean, I talk about it only when people ask me about it. I don't really,
Right. Right. Well, look, again, one of the main reasons why I wanted to have you
Trish
on,
McGregor and
Joe.
Roger,
Whoop, I think we've got a little
they put me in their
crossover
two
going.
books, The Shift, and also
Yeah. I think we have can you
okay,
hear me okay? We've got a little
yeah,
bit
they
of a
put me in
cross.
the Mind Synchronicity book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear
Yep,
me?
I can hear you good.
Okay, because you're breaking up and I don't think you can hear everything I'm saying. So we're kind of talking over each other. That's okay. Let's continue. We're almost through with this episode. I can't believe it. We got about 15 minutes
I
left.
can
I want
I
to just
didn't hear you then, but I can hear you now.
Okay. I want to share with the audience, we've got a little bit of a technical
Hmm.
difficulty going on. Not surprised, given that when we go deep into weirdness, tech issues just seem to emerge and want to show their interesting sort of faces, if you will, or what they're capable of. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. When we had Whitley Strieber on, several months ago now, along with a couple of other guests, we had so many tech problems. It was really, really something. So you have to wonder, of course, if that plays a role. However, speaking of Whitley, this is what I wanted to say, share with you, Joe, as well as with the audience. The
Yeah.
workshop that we had, oh gosh, I think it's been three or so years now, which was a fabulous intensive talking about how to deal with the inexplicable when you're really just questioning the phenomenon and questioning why you and beyond. Whitley did an amazing job of going really deep into not only his own story, but coping mechanisms, things that we can use in our day-to-day lives to navigate this very wonky path. Well, a little treat for today. For those of you who are already a part of my membership on Patreon, as well as those who may want to come on over and become a part of the community, I will have the entire workshop for you to see over on Patreon. Of course, we'll have a link. So we're going to do that in lieu of an after show today. But I thought it would be great for you to see what Whitley put out. This is one of the things that Joe participated in
Yeah.
that I hope was helpful for you, Joe. I know it's been helpful for a lot of people. In that regard, where do you go from here? What sort of things do you feel you need to do or want to do in the next steps of trying to unpack all of this?
Well, I'll tell you, the biggest concern I had after I experienced this thing was the fact that what was the purpose? Why was I the only one that walked into this, and there was nobody else around? There was no cars driving on the road. There was nobody coming out of the restaurant at this time. There was nobody at the gas station. It was like I was in a time warp. I was the only one, and so it helps me to get this out. I felt as though I had a real duty to tell the rest of the world that we do not walk alone here. There are entities that we walk with, and that you know I just can't. I just had to tell everybody that, because this was a full bodied person. This was not a shadowy person or anything like that. He was full bodied, and and I saw what happened, and it was thank God it was dead silence, because I think if there was any noise, maybe that would have probably caused more trauma with me,
Mhm.
because it was screaming and yelling or anything like that from this person, or
Right.
you know.
Have you sought out any kind of therapy like regression therapy to see if you could uncover any more memories, if there
I
are
was
any?
I was thinking about getting hypnotized, but I kind of I didn't really follow through with that yet. I
But that's
was
something you'd consider?
Yeah, I would absolutely. I'm open to anything. I mean, after witnessed this, I really am so open to what other people have experienced, and I like hearing
Right.
their stories too. And I watch the History Channel more now, and I look at the UFOs, ancient aliens. I watch all this stuff because I think maybe if I can pull something out of that maybe happened to me, I can understand why this happened to me. I'm just trying to figure out what the purpose was, why I walked into this. Was it random? Was this guy, randomly pulled out too, up into the air? I don't think he was expecting this. I don't think he was expecting me to
You
be there.
don't think he was expecting it?
No,
Really?
no, I think he was walking to that Shell station. He was going. He was going, getting ready to go down that slope, and that's why I kind of veered off to the side. I was waiting for him to go down the slope and go to the gas station, because then I would have walked behind him, because that's where my truck was, down below, and you
You
know,
know, there
side.
there there are so many approaches we could take in terms of going into the investigation of what anomaly you may have been witnessing. And something has occurred to me. When we think of phenomena, we think about craft, we think about UFOs, ETs, and we kind of fall into this very singular explanation or definition as to what we've become used to. And yet there are so many other aspects of weirdness to reality, Joe. And one of them has to do with this idea of interdimensional overlapping and portals. We could talk. I don't know if you're familiar at all with this. Is of course um, quite controversial in terms of the legitimacy of it. Something called the Montauk Project, which allegedly is a project that was conducted by the U.S. government back in the 70s and early 80s, going into the 80s, out of Montauk, New York. I think it was kind of an extension of the Philadelphia experiment, where they were alleged to be experimenting with things like time travel and jumping, really like a quantum jumping, and um, supposedly it was done for purposes of warfare to see if, individuals could be disembodied to appear off of radar for potential threats. Could invisibility be
Mm,
achieved through some of these high technologies? And something that you just said reminded me of that, because you say, could it have been a human being that was in the process of going to a location and then got caught in the middle of one of these things and literally disappeared? You know, things like the Bermuda Triangle, the countless amount of
mm,
cases that have been reported, and probably some that haven't, in which not individuals, I'm sorry, but craft, uh, ships as well as planes gone missing. And I've also heard of cases
mm,
of people witnessing individuals who literally disappeared in front of their eyes. Normal individuals. The question is, what's the origin of it? That's the mystery. But in terms of the legitimacy of these things actually happening and being witnessed, I think is not. I think it's happening. I absolutely do think it's happening. So, I think one thing I would suggest to you is just do what
Well,
you're doing, is staying
I'll
open
say
and
black
not.
hole.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
No, I was going to say that. No, I was going to say that black holes, millions of miles away. I can tell you, black holes are right here. Did you hear me?
I heard you. Absolutely.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Kind of
Can you
lost
hear
you.
me? Uh-oh, we're having a little bit of tech difficulties here. Can
Okay,
you
you
hear
heard
me
me about.
now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yep.
Okay, we'll keep
Okay.
going.
Don't lose you.
I hope we don't lose each other. Okay, we're gonna need to wind down
All right.
probably, because I think we're getting a little interference. Eh? Yes,
Okay.
I'm somewhat familiar
Well,
with the idea that we may indeed have not only mini black holes that can open and close right here on Earth, but portals as well. So yeah, I think that's something that's definitely could be happening for sure.
Yeah, I saw that
Yeah.
completely explode on me. It was a black hole that happened right in front of me. Maybe these anti-gravity things happen. I don't know where they get the time travel is through that. I don't know.
And I think we'll have to be okay, whatever okay means, with the idea that we may be asking the question for the rest of our lives. Be okay with not knowing, and yet
Yeah.
continue to explore for sure. Well, Joe, I think we're going to wind up because we're having some tech issues. I find it always fascinating. The weirder we get, the more interference we get. And I don't know why, but it seems to
Well,
be the case. So, what would you like to leave our
Okay, I was going to say thank you so much, Alexis, for having me. Giving me the time to retell again this thing that I walked into that night. And uh, you know, I mean, I'm open to taking any answers or any questions or anything. I'm open to everything. What
We
people might
appreciate that.
really. If you have
We
any questions,
certainly appreciate.
more questions,
Yeah.
follow, I'm more than happy to tell you. Okay, what I know. Yeah.
Well, we'll
So,
stay in touch on that for sure, and I'd be happy to speak with you more offline. And if there's anything that I can do, I'm here for you to help you on that exploration to the best of my ability. We all need a little hand holding. So, and
okay.
it's just been a pleasure to have you on and share your story with us. I don't want you to hang up. I want us to say a proper goodbye offline. So hang with me, but I'm going to sign off with the Journeyers for now. And always, always thank you for joining in our deep dives as we attempt to uncover the mysteries of reality together. And the plot does thicken indeed. So with that, I'll say thank you for watching today. And we, for sure, will talk to you real soon. Take care.